Please help me welcome to the stage DOE's first Undersecretary for Infrastructure, David Crane.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's say good morning. It's good to see everyone. On behalf of my boss, Jennifer Granholm, the Secretary of Energy, I want to welcome you here to Washington to this event. I know she's looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And as Jonah said, second annual Deploy24 gathering of private sector leaders, the government, and other people who are key players in the transition to the clean energy economy. And I think Jonah's already gone through the numbers of the tripling in size of this second annual conference from last year, and I think that's a sign of the growth that we're seeing across this whole area. So attendance here is important. It's an important part of the dialogue. If I've learned one thing basically, as I like to say, as a private sector person who's masquerading as a government official, we don't always speak the same language, but these types of convenes allow us to come together and get on the same page, which is, of course, important in public-private partnerships. Secondly, hopefully what you can take away from this meeting here is we can demystify the government. We've tried very, very hard to make working with the government less complicated over the almost 3 years that I've been at the DOE. But I'm not going to lie to you, the government's still a complicated place. And so by working together, hopefully we can continue that, simplifying that, demystifying partner. So I'm grateful for that you're here. And I know we have a lot of selectees from across our various programs, and I want to thank you for being our partner. So I want to give a few highlights about obviously my end of the Department of Energy, as Jonah said, first ever Undersecretary for Infrastructure. It was in a reorganization of the department that was prompted by the passage of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And so what we do is basically implement the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And my personal opinion is the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, as enhanced and supplemented and popularized by the Inflation Reduction Act, is the single most important and impactful infrastructure legislation in my lifetime. But of course, when it's passed, it's just a piece of paper, in this case, a very big piece of paper, so implementation is key, and we've been hard at work at that, working with you. And just to give you a few of the numbers, that right now, as we sit here, we've committed over $95 billion in grants and loans, and with more each day. So within the next few days and weeks, we'll be over $100 billion and moving northwards. 1,900 selectees of grants, 4,500 formula grantees, and all that is tied with over $100 billion, well over $100 billion committed from the private sector. Almost $40 billion of LPO loans already conditionally committed or financially closed, and that number is increasing every day. So those are the headline numbers. Of course, that's all part of what we're trying to achieve substantively. We're trying to enhance national energy security. We're involved in skilled job creation. You'll hear the number time and time again of the 400,000 jobs that have already been created in implementation of these programs. And of course, we're in the early stage. A lot of our programs are still at the design stage. In a world where everyone's going to the electrification of everything, safe, affordable, reliable power for all Americans, and of course, the goal of bending the curve in the fight against climate change. So we feel like we're making tremendous progress. We're still in the early innings, but we're on the right track. So as I was preparing these remarks and I was thinking about the public-private partnership, I was saying, is it that we couldn't do it without you, or you couldn't do it without us? But I think either way, it's a symbiotic relationship. And the mantra that we use all the time, private sector-led, government-enabled. I actually like to say private sector-led, government-enabled, and government-accelerated. But when I got at the DOE, my part of the DOE, I think, had 56 programs that we had to implement over the next few years. And I think in my second week, I was handed the first solicitation document, which, of course, the government, being the government, doesn't call them RFPs. For then they were called FOAs. Now they're called NOFOs. But in any case, the first document that I saw, the first solicitation document, was 450 pages. And I suddenly had a panic. It's like, what if we throw this party and no one from the private sector comes? But one of the statistics that I'm most pleased by is just how competitive the process we've run have been. When I first started, it was not uncommon for the competitive processes to be 2 or 3 times oversubscribed. What we've seen in the fall is that number's just come up, like more recent rounds of like GDO's grid modernization program were 8 to 10 times oversubscribed. Now, I say that because I know that there are financiers, there are prospective investors in the room, and welcome, because we want you to invest. But I think one of the most important things of what the Department of Energy has done for the private sector is that we put immense effort into picking the best of the best in terms of projects. And of course, any financier is going to do their own due diligence. But I think it's fair to say that if the Department of Energy has hit a bid, if we've provided a grant to a company, if we've provided a loan to a company, they've been subject to extensive due diligence. And we believe the technology that we're financing can scale and the projects can be commercially viable. So if I'm subliminally suggesting that you should treat us as like a good housekeeping seal of approval, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that you should do is you should take great confidence in the fact that these projects are in the DOE portfolio. As important to us as what we're achieving in terms of these numbers and these macro accomplishments is how we're achieving it. And one of the benefits of this job is I get to go around the country for award announcements, groundbreakings, and even ribbon cuttings. I got to go to Lancaster, Ohio, where a company called Cerba Solutions actually was the first company to actually get the money, finish their project, and have the full ribbon cutting. It's a lithium recycling facility. And what struck me in all my travels there in Lancaster and other parts of the country is with the workers, the management, the owners, the communities as represented by the mayors and the city council members. It doesn't matter whether we're in Democratic places or Republican places. There's a unity of purpose, there's a unity of objective, and everyone wants these key building blocks to the clean energy economy to be produced in the United States. So skilled workers as our partners in this endeavor, the communities that are hosting these industrial facilities as our partners in these endeavors, we think this is the way forward. We think this de-risks projects, and I could go on talking about all the benefits of this sort of inclusive approach to infrastructure development, but as I don't really have time to do that, I want to make sure that in the crowded schedule today, I want to shout out to a couple of my colleagues who at 12:30, Brian Anderson and Sarah Friedman, are going to be hosting a session on these community benefits. So before I close, first I want to thank LPO for hosting this conference. And I was going to tell folks from LPO to stand up so everyone could see them, but the room's so dark, I'm not sure that works. I want to thank the other colleagues from the DOE, from the other the grant program offices that are participating. And again, I want to thank all of you who are selectees for being our partners. The last thing I want to say is that, the nature of conferences is that a lot of information is thrown at you. But I hope that you'll use these next 2 days to provide feedback. Because one of the things that we've tried to change about government is that we want to listen, we don't want to just proclaim. Deploying new technologies, technologically, commercially viable, those of us who have done project development for our whole life know that the process is never smooth. There's speed bumps that have to be surmounted, obstacles that have to be overcome. One of the lines I like to use within the Department of Energy is that we had to achieve a certain amount of commercial and financial sophistication to pick the best projects. But as we move forward and work with the private sector to deploy these projects, the DOE needs to be 5 times more commercially attuned, 5 times more financially sophisticated, and we're only going to become that way if we get frank and candid feedback from you. So please provide it. So in closing, while we've accomplished a lot, there's a lot more to be done. We have momentum, but the road ahead is long, so let's get started, and thank you for being here.